Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the Level Up Podcast, where you learn how to go from agent to entrepreneur. I am Matt Johnson. Greg Harrelson is here. It's been a while since we've done a kind of a mini episode, but we're talking about how the game has changed. And first of all, Greg, welcome back.
Man, yeah, thank you. Glad to be back and glad to be back with you, man. I'm glad you hit the record button and started this thing, because I think we just did 3 podcasts over the last 25 minutes, forgetting we were supposed to actually hit the record button. But I always love, doing these with you. And I actually get a lot of people, Matt, that say, hey, man, I look forward to the next one you and Matt do. You guys got great chemistry and whatnot. Like we're just a great couple.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I tend to draw really interesting things out of your brain, and of course your brain is always running anyway. But I like to pick. I like to pick and draw things out because you always surprise me. You surprised me earlier before we recorded, and we'll have to do a whole other episode about this. But you surprised me with the fact that your entire personal lead generation strategy is a trapper keeper, and so we'll have more to say about that in another episode.
Yes.
But
I love it.
Yeah, set the scene for us a little bit. So when you say the game has changed and the agents don't know the rules anymore, first of all, where did that come from?
Well, so I'll go kind of back and forth on this. So the game has changed. It's not about market share. It's about mind share.
Okay.
And we may have even done a podcast on this or a recording a couple years ago. Oh, I know I did a recording with former CEO of Century 21, Rick Davidson, great guy.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about relevance. It's all about relevance. And at that time, we were starting to think more and more about mind share. The game has changed. It's about mind share, not about market share. And what we tend to do is we tend to chase market share. And a lot of us can be very successful in the short run at chasing market share. But you have to understand, the people that we complain about, as an industry, there's a lot of complaints on, say, a Zillow. And people look at that and you say, okay, well, what is Zillow really chasing? Zillow owns search.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they own mind share. They own a spot in people's minds. And when people think of search, they go to Zillow. That's just very common. What they successfully have done while they were losing money, they have successfully increased their mind share. Now, we'll see what happens. I'm not going to give an opinion on what's going to happen. Do they win in the end? Do they not? It's insignificant. The significance here is the game has changed. People have just chosen to lose money to capture mind share with the thought that market share will follow. Real estate agents we're still chasing market share.
Mm-hmm.
And while everyone else is winning the mind share game, today we're still touting how we're winning the market share game. But if something could flip in the middle of the night and all of a sudden mind share takes over and they start winning the market share game. Now, what triggered this? Because I remember this has been a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or maybe a little bit over a month ago. I sent you a text. I said, we got to get this on recording and talk about this. And what spurred that was when I was listening or watching all the comments and posts about Realogy doing a deal with Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And people were typically any deal that's done with, if KW does a deal with somebody, then guess what? I mean, everyone's going to talk trash about KW. If C21 does a deal with somebody, everyone talks trash about C21. If EXP does a deal with somebody, everyone talks trash about them. It's like you never see any comments on Facebook that are like, hey, it's an interesting comment. There's never dialogue going back and forth about what are they really thinking, besides how we react and how we think negatively about somebody, what they're doing, let's get into their minds and try to see what they're seeing so we can understand the moves that they're making, because they're not making moves to lose money. They're making moves because they have this vision that they're going to eventually make money. Maybe they lose in the meantime, but they're not purposely going after losses forever. No. They do see some light at the end of the tunnel. So we have to sometimes ask ourselves, what the hell do they see at the end of the tunnel that I might not be looking at? And when we're talking negative on Facebook about how stupid that deal was and how Realogy did this and KW does that and their tech is not really that good and these people are selling out on their agents, when that chatter's going on, we are actually distracted from the most important thing that we need to be focused on is what target are they trying to hit? And is that a valid target? And what changes do I need to make to beat them to that target? And if you notice, the target they're all trying to hit is mindshare.
Okay.
And so I said to people on, I didn't say this. I don't get too controversial on in social media. It's just not worth it. But at the end of the day, everybody has not everybody, just about everybody has a Amazon Prime account.
That's more. The population of the U.S. that has Amazon Prime is higher than the percentage that are Catholic.
Okay, good.
You ever heard that?
Yeah. No, I haven't, but I believe it.
Yeah.
Okay. On top of that, our wives trust Amazon probably more than they trust anybody else in their life. They're not only a brand that has a large membership, the trust that they have as a brand is over the top. We let them in our house.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody in history that we've trusted more than Amazon. We just don't we don't think about it in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Like Amazon already has mindshare. Amazon's more trusted. The people that are in Amazon's database trust Amazon more than the people that are in real estate agents' databases trust the real estate agent.
Oh, yeah.
And every real estate agent that has a database is Amazon's database. Mm-hmm. So Amazon has more mindshare than the real estate agent has. So I'm looking at this and say, what are they doing here, right? And now I don't know what Amazon's doing. I'm speculating here. But when I look at all this, I'm like, we're missing the boat. We're arguing about, oh, this could take a few deals out of our production, when we really need to be thinking and learning the lessons that the game is all about mindshare. And at some point, if we let everybody else dominate the mindshare, there's not going to be any market share left for us. Mm-hmm. So that's the game part. So I'll let you kind of take that where you want to.
Well, so here's the thing about big companies, which is that they believe certain things. They especially believe certain things that I would disagree with and that I think contradict good marketing. So I do think there's there's the belief in big companies that once you build a big brand and you do build that trust and you do build mindshare, that mindshare can then be leveraged in a bunch of different ways. The problem is that that's rarely, if ever, the case, right? They build mindshare and the mindshare works to it keeps working in the areas where people trust them, right? So we continue to trust Amazon to deliver packages on time. We might even trust them to install something like Ring and allow them to put packages into our house.
Yes.
Can that trust be pushed and leveraged into some completely different area like real estate? Remains to be seen. I would guess probably not. Amazon would tell you absolutely. They'll trust us to do anything, right? Because that's what big companies do. Once they build that brand and they build the trust and the mindshare, they believe it can be leveraged in a whole host of different ways. I don't believe human brain works that way to where that trust can just be leveraged in a whole bunch of different ways. But you made a comment I think before we hit record, that Amazon's game isn't to be in real estate. So I'd love to know more about that, because from the perspective of the cheap seats over here, it certainly seems like they might be making a move. They're making deals with Realogy. So it seems like their move might be into real estate, but that's not your perspective, that Amazon is getting into real estate. So what do you think they're doing?
I think they're monetizing their database.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, you said something like the brands like Amazon, or we're using Amazon as a brand quite often in this call. We probably will continue, but we could use any brand. Like, you're talking about, how could Walmart, get into real estate? Like, it doesn't translate right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
But I don't think, this is all opinion. Mm-hmm. I don't think that they have any interest in getting into real estate. But I do believe that they have every single person that a real estate agent has in their database. I do believe that they have that same person in their database. And I do believe that the database likes them, those people like them better. And I do believe that they see more value in what Amazon does than they see the realtor doing for them. So we just know that they're in the database. So,
Yeah.
I mean, is it possible that when they see somebody that buys a book on how to update your home to get it prepared for sale, is it possible that they're going to know a statistic that the people who actually click and read on those types of books on average list the property within 6 months of the time that they clicked on that book? And then if they click on that book and then they go purchase something like, I don't know, I'm going to say some grout for their tile, that they say, okay, because of that, it means this, and because of that, then this. And then does that trigger a lead for somebody? Does it? That they can then turn around and sell the lead at a higher price, percentage-wise, than any brokerage would ever make by running the actual transaction through their company.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's plenty of brokerages that are like, that run, brokerages themselves that would run, profit margins of 5%.
Mm-hmm.
And can Amazon get 30%, 35%, 40% for those leads? Like, why would you want to be in real estate if you could get that type of percentage off of the top of a transaction and not have anything but an ecosystem and an infrastructure to actually support the tracking of that lead versus the other legal issues and everything you have from the brokerage standpoint? Like, I don't know why they would cross over and take on all that other stuff for just a few additional bumps on points and profitability when they can actually do this. So you got to look at, we all talk about big data, right? Like, I mean, I think Amazon has some important data on these people.
I agree.
That'll allow them to predict when somebody's likely to do something. Like, so at that point, I'm not sure if Amazon necessarily, is not going to call somebody and say, hey, I think are you ready to list?
Mm-hmm.
But their lead identification possibilities are unlimited.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And
So I don't know where it goes, but this would make sense to me.
Well,
and at the end
let's
of the
bring it back to mindshare for a second.
Okay.
Because so in terms of what agents, team leaders, and brokers can do and what they need to know so that they can take action right now. So if you agree with the idea that the game has changed, it shifted to mindshare. So what do you as the agent, like how does that translate into what we as the agents should be doing to build mindshare so that we don't have to rely on a lead from our own database, mind you, right? Somebody else telling us, hey, this person you already have in your database is thinking about moving. Now you should call them, and then having to pay a 35% referral fee for the privilege of knowing that about somebody that's already in our database. How do we prevent stuff like that from happening?
The first thing that I'm writing down right now is, I would say in my experience with talking with agents, which I do every day, the biggest obstacle that we've got to overcome as real estate agents is we got to stop getting pissed off that when we get a lead that they say, I'm not interested for another 12 months. No, I'm not really going to purchase for another 2 years. And then all of a sudden, what do? That's a sucky lead. That attitude will lose the game. Mm-hmm. Because see, that's saying I can't gain market share if I invest any time into this person, I won't gain market share.
Yeah, what they really just gave you is a gift.
Yes, you just had an opportunity to win mindshare.
Yeah.
But we as agents are like, nope, I don't have time for that. It's inefficient. And listen, I understand it, right? You only have so much time during the day. This is a real tough crossroads that we're at within our industry. Part of me could sit there and debate, yeah, you know what? You need to only focus on those leads that say they're ready to do something within the next 7 days or 14 days or 30 days. Spend all your time on that. Generate. Look for those gold nuggets, close those down. Great. That is going to do you well for 2019. And then in 2020, those 2020 activities will do you well for 2020. But what you're not doing is you're not building a business that becomes very sustainable. You're building a business where you have to invest an hour and in return, you're getting $1. You're trading time for money. You're not actually leveraging databases and things like that. You're never going to build a good database and have that database convert if we're only cherry picking on the front end. And I think that that's a major shift that agents have to make. And it's not easy because that's going to require us to retool our systems to be able to manage more people and more conversations, more nurture that matters. Like, you know, the pumpkin seed packets, forgive me for those that are listening that send those out, but those guys that are sending and people sending out pumpkin seed packets, this is just not value. Mm-hmm. So we have to up our game in the value that we deliver. And I don't think anyone's figured that one out, myself included. I'm thinking about it every day, and I will. I don't think I've figured it out yet, not to the level I think it needs to be. But I do know one thing. The first step is you can no longer judge a lead based on its time frame. That will, you can if you want market share, but that does not work if you want mind share.
Yeah. Yeah. I would call that choose tomorrow over today, which is one of the toughest decisions to make in business. Very, very tough. Let me ask you this. I'm curious, and then we'll probably shut this one down because we've got another episode that I want to record. For an agent that needs to make that shift, or they recognize that, you know, that shift is possible, I wonder if it's one of those situations where the only way to really make that a reality to agents that right now are trading time for money, right now they're focused on today, and right now they're focused on market share. I find this a lot in my space. Until you've experienced the power of something like that happening, to where somebody just literally picks up the phone, calls you, says, "Hey, I want to list my home with you." Like, until they have that experience, I think it's hard to explain to somebody how that feels and what it would be like on the other side of that transformation if that was the majority of their business, and the majority of their business didn't come from them hard charging, talking to people that are ready to make a decision within the next 7 days. So, you know, to me, it's one of those, it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg thing, but I wonder if you'd agree with me that if you can have that experience once, or be around people that have that experience, like Greg, literally picking up the phone and getting a call from one of the people in your database saying, "Come over to my house, I'm ready to list with you."
Happens all the time.
I would think that agents, like, once they get around you, or they get around people that have that type of business, you get a better taste of the vision, and it becomes more real to you. And then you say, "Okay, yes, now I'm ready to make the shift."
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what I agree with your point.
Does that make sense? Like, how do we give them those experiences if we know that would be helpful, but you're not going to get it for in your own business until you start to nurture your database? How can they get around people, you know what I'm saying, that have that experience, so they can see what it's like?
Let me just give you the Greg Harrelson answer. Look, if you're looking for freaking proof before you're going to get started, then you'll always be mediocre.
Okay.
If you're looking for the sure thing, no, I'm not going to do it.
I don't know about proof. That's not what I'm getting. I know what you mean, but yeah, that's
if you're looking for proof if you need to be convinced in your mind, if you need to see it before you believe it, then you're going to be mediocre.
Okay.
You know, because if you gotta, if you gotta believe that mind share is going to win out. You've got to believe that it's possible to create so much value within a database that you will get come list me calls. I mean, if you were to come to my office, in my office for 1 week, I bet you'll see my assistant put at least 6 people on my desk that will want to talk about listing their property. And that's just my desk. That's not all the agents in my office, because remember, our databases are so big. Every agent is getting something similar, maybe not 6 a week, because their database might not be as big, but you would see probably 30 a week on our team in our office that we would get. It's just everyday life to us. That's normal.
Yeah.
You know, but the key is what I believed before that was that if I deliver great value, the law of reciprocity will take place. If you're waiting for proof that it'll really work, you'll never have it. You'll never get it, because you have to do something before that's going to happen. And if you came and looked at my office and you said that, then you guys or somebody would end up saying, yeah, but he's probably doing something he's not telling us. So, yeah, he's probably this. Yeah.
Yeah. It says, well, you can't help. Yeah, you can't help that. You can't help those people. If you're going to find any excuse not to take action, yeah, we can't be helpful. But yeah, I do think like knowing that that's possible and knowing what I know about you, that those calls are coming in.
Oh yeah,
like it is possible. I think that does help people, and maybe we need to do a better job of it on the podcast itself of sharing those types of success stories. I don't know if that would help, but yeah, I do think there are people that can see the vision and step out and start doing things differently. You're one of them, obviously, but I don't think that's the majority of people. So if you're listening to this, don't be in the majority, obviously. I mean, that's the Greg Harrelson answer. Stop being in the majority, step out and start taking action. But I do think it helps to have examples like you to know that there's an office where 30 leads are coming in every week, where it's basically just show up and, hey, I want to talk to you about listing my home. Like it's important to know that exists and that that's possible. Does that make sense?
I agree. Yeah, I agree that there needs to be something that you can see that, hey, yeah, okay, this is possible. Now I can go ahead and I'll dive in. And it is. And it all comes down to, I think the belief starts with, do you believe that if you added a lot more value that you could actually put yourself in a position to get a lot more business? Like if somebody believes that, then the conversation's then becomes like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what kind of value could I add? So pre-databases for me, which is years ago, and it was inspired by Chet Holmes. I've given him credit, and he's passed away, but I've given him a lot of credit in that book, Ultimate Sales Machine. But when I went and saw him and Tony Robbins at a business mastery course years ago, I mean, maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago, somehow he said something, and then I said to myself, because you see like CNBC or Fox Business, those channels right on TV, where like if you own Coca-Cola stock, there were so many resources for you to get information instantly on what that stock was worth, the latest news on that stock. Like you could just go to one of those channels or go to the website, Yahoo Finance or something like that, and you could just see it instantly, right? And I realized that there is no Fox Business or news, or there is no CNBC, there is no Yahoo Finance for the real estate industry. And I said, you got all these people that have these assets and they have no real-time way of actually being able to just determine what's going on with their asset at that moment. So I said, I need to be that for them. Now we're talking years ago. So of course I didn't have that website. Now it's more easy now because Zillow created that called the Zestimate, right? Yep. Okay, they can do it in real time. We can argue about whether it's accurate or not. And for those that are sitting there, those estimates aren't accurate. They're more accurate than real estate agents.
Oh man, I love it.
They are. Like we did a test. We look at like original list price to final close price, and the percent was a greater variance between original list price after reductions and an expired and another reduction, and then it finally sold. I see what
you mean. Yeah. So agents are pricing their own homes that they list more often than a Zestimate would price them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're more inaccurate than the Zestimate.
Yeah.
So like for anybody who wants to have that battle, then please let's have that conversation. You'll never see me anywhere in the history ever say anything about the Zestimate, because I knew that the real estate agent's the last person that needs to talk about inaccuracies in pricing.
Yeah.
I don't know where the hell I was.
That's hilarious. But basically your concept was, so pre databases, your idea was, I want to educate the homeowner on what their biggest asset is worth. And
it was actually real
time as possible, right?
Matt, it wasn't. I didn't want to educate it. I wanted to empower them with information so they could make sound financial decisions in the area of their real estate holdings. I wanted to empower them.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to be associated with their empowerment. Now that's what I started. That was years ago. The game's changing now. I'm going to have to reinvent this, and I'm working on reinventing this.
Yeah.
But that was the start for those, that's how I got started in this. Said I need to empower them.
I like it. Yeah, we got to do another episode about that approach, but
we could talk a little bit more about maybe on another episode, maybe the how to gain mind share. Maybe that would be
I think we do. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, but I love the approach, and that basically that gave you a foundation or an underpinning where all of your content that you used to communicate with your database sprang from that central idea.
Yes.
Right. Make great decisions about your real estate holdings.
Yes. So therefore, hence why I would say I couldn't send anything about turn your clock back,
Right.
because the turn the clock back wouldn't fit into the box of empowering them to make good financial decisions.
Yep.
Now, the turn your clock back may fit into a different box that somebody says, this is what I want to deliver. This is where I'm going to deliver value. So it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It just that would not pass the test of what I could send out.
Yeah. Yeah. So the game's changed. It's about mindshare. And I do think agents, we still I think that's still the struggle, is we have the opportunity to serve the consumer. The more alternatives that come from the tech world are going to be just that, alternatives. The question is, do they persuade the public that there's more value in working with them than there is in working with an agent? Because agents aren't going away and tech isn't going away. We're going to start competing side by side. The question is, who delivers the most value? And I think that the challenge for agents is just, how do we stay in touch in such a way that conveys the value so that when they decide they're ready, they come to us naturally rather than going to the tech companies that might come in and try to swoop in with a last minute offer that sounds better, right?
Yeah.
How do we build that trust? How do we build the mind share? So yeah, I think we do need to do a deeper episode on just your latest thinking on that. We'll have to save that.
Yeah. We may have to go deeper with fewer. That might be part of the process, is we need to go deeper in relationship with fewer people. And like trying to have a database of 400,000 people and think that you're going to win mind share off of that is probably not a good idea. It'd probably be better to have 10,000 that you really have mind share and really just work the heck out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I think that's the trend in everything is deeper relationships, smaller groups of people, smaller hyper-focused niches. So I think that trends are what we're seeing in the rest of the world and rest of business. Let's do this. What's the best way for people to reach out and connect and ask questions?
Same way I tell them every time. Just go to Facebook and hit me up on Messenger.
All right. Make sure to rate, review the show. Go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star. If there's a particular guest that you like, make sure to give them a shout out in the review. That would be awesome. And of course, you can always get the podcast on all of your favorite platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, all that fun stuff. And soon to be coming to new places like Pandora. So they're opening up Pandora's platform to more than music, just like Spotify did. It's not huge, but if you're a Pandora listener and you want to get the show on that, we're getting the show onto that platform, and there's probably more to come as more platforms and apps open up to podcasts. So with that said, Greg, that was a blast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Love it.
We'll see everybody on the next episode.
Take care.